engaging with the session. So in today's session, I will be more explaining about how the AI can be useful to create an end-to-end secure workflow. So agenda of today's session is why this matter now and what is the enterprise gap. And I will be touching upon the AI concept. I will be sharing information what are the core strength are there and what are the limitations of those AI concepts. And also I will be explaining about MCP and Sitecore Marketer MCP, what is how the Sitecore Marketer MCP have been built and how we can create our own MCP tools to improve the performance for the continuous improvement, as well as wherever the MCP tools are not available, and if you need to automate any process which you are doing manual into the automation via AI, how we can do that, and how and what is the responsible AI in practice, that will also I will be sharing. And this is a small introduction about myself, so you can always scan the QR code and connect with me and ping me offline, or you can connect via a social media channel. I will be happy to connect with you. And coming to the first section, why this matter now. So you know that AI is everywhere, and in most of the cases, everyone is nowadays utilizing the Gen AI and the Copilot in their day-to-day activities, like a Copilot or a GitHub Copilot or a Chat GPT or any other online tools people are utilizing is to create a content, right? So, so these are the mainstream currently, and everyone is utilizing that. But most of the enterprise are not using that because these Gen AI and Copilots are very good in the creating the drafting the content, summarizing anything, or providing the insight or creating the images. But they will stop at recommendation. Why? Because they can't execute the next action what is required by you, because they are not knowing that what are the available tools are there. So those are the execution bottleneck generally present for the enterprise system, because they don't want to create an agent which will be having all the information about their endpoints, like API endpoints or API keys or something like that, and they are not knowing that how to create a secured flow. And that's why there is a need for a standard execution comes into the picture by the enterprise system, so that they can automate any workflow which they wanted to. For example, if you are creating the uh, content in a with the help of AI, like a product catalog page or anything page, so those can be suggested by a Gen AI and a Copilot, but they can't do anything after content is generated. So that's why it's a similar to a brain without a hand, because LLM can create a blog post, but they cannot reliably go and create a page within your CMS. Or suppose if you are creating a trying to feed the data into your customer 360 degree, or you have received some data or a product MSU detail or a description, and you need to push it to the CRM. So they can generate a description or some data which you wanted via AI, but they cannot go and update into the your CRM system. So that's why it's a concept of a, or you can say that a problem of a brain without hands. So in today's era, that AI is very good in doing everything, but they need some set of a standardized process, so that whatever the gap faced by the enterprise system, that can be filled with the concept of agentic AI in the MCP. And enterprise also looking for a governance. So when you are running the AI and if you are giving everything upfront, so you are not giving any authentication and authorization, like under which context the data is being updated in the downstream system or the backend system. So that's why the need of a role of agentic AI and MCP comes into the picture, which I will be covering it. So now if you will correlate that AI and LLM can do the reasoning and the planning, and someone needs to comes into the picture like a human who will be performing the manual steps to go and update the content into the content tree. So in today's session, I will be explaining how the execution gaps or a bottlenecks are there, how we are going to remove with the help of a MCP tools. So now coming to the AI concept. So everyone is aware about the Gen AI, Copilot AI, agent and agentic, and everyone is using extensively nowadays. So you can think of a Gen AI called a generative AI, the brain, right? Because you are utilizing the model, and that is the, you can say that, a underlying engine whenever you are using any sort of AI workflow, and they are excel in producing new content like a text, code, summaries, and ideas based on the prompt whichever entered by the user. So their core strength is generally content creation and summary and ideation. So limitation of the Gen AI is do not have a execution capability, and they don't have a direct access to the tools which are required to update the content. So in terms of a co-pilot, they are working as the assistants because you are embedding the Gen AI or LLM model into your tools or a ID like a GitHub Copilot or a Cloud Desktop. And these tools or ID, they observe the user context and provide the suggestion in a real time. For example, if you are uh, entering any prompt to generate a content, or if you are performing any sort of uh, steps with the help of doing the execution of or verifying any website with the help of a Chrome dev tool or any other sources. So next time if you will enter any sort of URL, it will automatically go and try to execute the same thing because they are storing the context in the memory. So that's why whenever you are using the same session, so to minimize the token consumption, those memories have been utilized. So they are very good in the identifying the context or the intent of a user, and also it is also providing you the excellent user experience because whenever whatever the data you are getting from the AI, those generally will be coming in the form of a JSON payload, but you are getting a very good user experience when you are seeing the results. So how it is being done, because those are done by the co-pilots. Coming to the AI agent, those are the specialists because you are creating a AI agent for a specific task. So they can execute a predefined task such as fetching the data or getting the weather details. And their strength are the task execution and API based automation. For example, I was explaining earlier. So suppose if you need to get a data from something or you need to get a weather report from a third party system. So in those cases, you need to define the API endpoints into your AI agent, or if it is a authenticated behavior, then you need to share the keys also in your AI agent. So that's way they are excel in doing the point to point integration, and they can execute a one task at a time. So and also they are dependent on the available integration. If you have added the integration into your agent, then only they are going to do that. Or if you have defined any code block or anything, they will be able to execute based on the user input. Agentic AI you can think of as a manager who can introduce a autonomous reasoning and the planning. So they are not following the script. So what they will do, they will generally breaks the goal into a steps, and individual steps also can be assigned to a specific agent, and they can work as an orchestrator to assign the task, and also based on what you have written into your workflow, and they can pass the output of a one agent into the another agent. So that's why they are excel in the planning and orchestrating the multi-step goals. So the simple example is that suppose if you are planning a trip where we need to check the weather also, comparing flights also, and booking the with some constraint. So for example, in those cases, agentic AI will divide the or chop the task into a small task, and it will assign the agent so that the first step is to it will check the weather. So based on your time period, if you have said the summer or winter, so it will decide or refine the weather from a specific weather website whichever you have defined it, and then it will pass those into comparing the flight. So based on the weather, it will check that it's a good to fly at a specific destination or not. So that's why it will combine, it will first divide and combine the output, so output from a one and passing into the other, and it will present the things to you. So they are also doing the tool selection also, which I will be explaining in the further slide. And also they are self-evaluate and retry. Suppose if any agent is failing, so they will retry again. What are the available options are there? They will do that also. So in simple metrics like a quick view, so suppose all are defining, or you can say that the performing a action or a task in which they are proficient. But if you will see the agentic AI, they can also do the plan, reasoning, plus act. They can take the action, but they are not also enterprise safe, because till that point they are not having any subordinate who are having access to the backend system in a enterprise manner, like a role-based access or a govern, or the auditability is there. So when we will combine the MCP tool with the agentic AI, then it is able to perform the in a safe environment, so that if you are having any project or a organization which are hesitant in performing the use of AI, then you can introduce agentic AI plus MCP, and you can showcase that how this process are more secured and in a governed manner, and everything is being tracked, so that if any auditing needs to be done at a later point, they can access who have executed. Generally what happened that in earlier days, whenever we are having any automation, then we will be creating the service account and we will be doing that. But to avoid those, if you are using the role based access, then you can easily identify that who have updated what. So now coming to the MCP fundamentals. So MCP stand for Model Context Protocol. So we have seen in the earlier slide that those are the brain without hands. So now we are going to understand what's missing between AI and the enterprise system. So there is a need for a standard tool which can be utilized by AI system, and the type safe input and output, so that AI is aware about that what data needs to be passed and what data would be written by the backend system or a tools, and everything will be the permission based, and the audit trailing will be there, and consistent execution gateway. It's not like that one time if you are giving the prompt it will execute correctly, and next time when you will go and it will giving the different result, then again you need to say that no, I'm not looking for this. So we are looking for a persistent or a consistent things, so that we can make the automation. So that's why the MCP comes into the picture. It's an open standard uh, uh, for AI to tool interaction. It means if you are working on a MCP tool, so it's not like that. Or if suppose if you are having a backend system which is in the .NET, so it's not compulsory you need to write a code to create a custom MCP tool in the .NET. If your tools is, if your backend system is exposing a API, or if they are having a SDK in specific language, so you can use that language and create that. Or if the API based, then you can create a tools, MCP tools in any languages. Like if you are having a backend system in .NET, then you can create the MCP tool in Python also, and you can integrate that. So it's not compulsory that you need to utilize the same language which is used by your backend system. Tool discovery plus invocation. So whenever you are writing a MCP tools, so you are registering your tool so that it will be auto discoverable with the help of, and also the body or a definition of a your tools will be shared with the AI, so that AI can map those descriptions or the parameters with the natural human languages. Type schema, like what is the input and output, those should be also discoverable to your AI tools. So that's why MCP tool is a type safe, because it is telling you upfront what is the input and what is the output parameter. Permission scope execution. So whenever you are writing any MCP tool, so based on your system, you can either have a key based authentication, like whoever is having a keys, those people can access that. So you need to write a code for that. Or if you are writing a tools like how we are having a Sitecore Marketer MCP, where whenever you will try to execute the MCP tools, Sitecore Marketer MCP tool, it will upfront tell you to log in, right? So it first step it is authenticating it. After authentication, it will giving you the screen to authorize, like which site collection would you like or a environment would you like to access, you are selecting that. So that way it is a role based access is there in the MCP tool. And auditability and the governance. So suppose if you are logging in with your credentials, then your credentials will be passed to the Sitecore Marketer MCP tool, and that way it is having a complete details that if people are utilizing the Sitecore Marketer MCP tool also, but the content updated by someone, right? Those details also will be reflecting in the Sitecore. It's not like that admin updated those things how you used to do in the batch job when you are running the code in within the context of a site code. So in those cases, you have seen that it's stored as a site code slash admin. So it would be not like that. So in simple word, that MCP is not an AI model; it's a bridge. So whatever the gaps, brain without hands, the gap was there. So it will help you to bridge those gaps. So to understand more, uh, generally what happened that AI and AI app like ID, whichever you are using, like a Cloud or a GitHub, you are having some sort of a configuration files where you will be adding your MCP tool details. So those are treated as a MCP client. So you will run it, and whenever someone is trying to access or AI agent trying to access that, then the JSON RPC remote procedure calls is being made, and that will connect to the MCP server, and MCP server based on whatever the data you have passed, it will interact with the specific system which you are written over there. So that way MCP server is discoverable. What are the methods are there? It will be easily available to the AI agents, and based on the description and whatever the data is required, API your AI agent will be automatically map human wording or a natural language with the tools, and it will invoke those tools, and whatever the result or a context received from the MCP execute tool execution, it will be revert back to the end user. So that way it's a simple client server interaction, handshaking is happening in your ID tool, and that's way it is a more secure way of connecting with the backend system. So if you will combine the agentic AI plus MCP, so in a earlier slide we have seen that there is a execution gaps are there, right? So those execution gap have been filled up by a this MCP tools and the validation in this, like a third block you are seeing there. So that is the automation have been done with the help of a MCP tool invocations, and it will be interacting with your enterprise system like a CMS, any API or the database, and it will uh, perform the whatever the task have been assigned to the agent. It will execute that and return the result to the end user. So it means that agentic AI decide what to do next, and based on that, it will invoke some sort of MCP tool which is mapped with the user intention, and MCP validates the user access and execute the task, and internally ID status or whatever the data you wanted to pass from a end user to the backend system, it will connect with the backend system, and then agentic AI updates plan based on the result. So suppose if it's a planning of a your travel, then automatically if one tool is executed, then it will pass on the output of a one tool previous tool to the other tool, so that it is having all the required data. So that way these manual steps have been automated with the help of a MCP tools. So now coming to the Sitecore Marketer MCP tool. So Sitecore Marketer MCP tool basically is created to perform all the marketing tasks, or you can say that a content authoring task which your content author generally do perform in day-to-day activities like logging into the Sitecore and creating the content from a Word document or an Excel sheet into the Sitecore system. So those tasks have been automated, and Sitecore Marketer MCP also applies the MCP context, MCP concept to perform the marketing task. So at the end, the Sitecore Marketer MCP tool is using the Sitecore Agent API endpoints to perform any interaction with the Sitecore CMS system. And also whatever the task you are seeing it, you are they will automatically map to the natural language and they will execute the Sitecore task. For example, if you say that create item, so automatically your agent will be having all the descriptions because it's able to discover what tools are available, and it will execute the task of creating an item, and it automatically map to the specific MCP tools. And internally, the MCP tools which is written by the site code will be connecting with the agent API, and they will perform the task with the backend system. So these will work with the multiple LLMs client like a Cloud AI and any other ID, and the Copilot also it will work. So if you will see that when will you institute the MCP server? So MCP client will be connecting with the MCP server, and then internally MCP Sitecore Marketer MCP will be connecting with the agent API, and it will perform the whatever the operation you wanted to perform with the MCP tool. It will perform that, and it will return you. So always the governance will be there, because when you will provide your authentication and authorization, then only you will be able to execute specific tasks, and always it will be performed the consistent. It's not like that one time you say the set the create item, it will create the item, and next time again you will say it won't create. Why? Uh, because it's always having a your context, because you are using the ID, then automatically next time also it will perform the same correct operation in a specific location which you have identified earlier. So that's why it is providing the complete governance for the enterprise system, so that they can safely execute the task without exposing the secured credentials to the outer world. So that's why if you will compare the before versus after MCP, so you are seeing that human clicks through the CMS UI, because you have generated the content or a draft the content with the help of a your Copilot agent or any other ID tools. You are having the data, but how you will update that data into the backend system? So if you will utilize the MCP tools, then it will those manual steps or the execution gap will be filled by the MCP tool, and you can execute the task safely in an autonomous way. Now coming to the extensibility and the adoption. So why these thing is required? For example, uh, the simple example is that if you are having a set of a product catalog or a product item which you like to update into the site core itself as well as into the CRM system. So generally what people will do, if you are using the PIM or anything, so first the product will be updated into the CRM system, then you need to write some sort of a batch job which will take some subset of a data, and it will update the data into the site core. So those are the manual steps. But if you would like to create the automation and you need to give the responsibility to the content authoring team, so how would you do that? So in those cases you can create your own CRM MCP tool if it is not available, and you can pass on the JSON, CSV, or any data source which you have received. Generally you will pass that to the your agent will pass that data to the CRM, and you need to write some sort of a workflow in form of a agents, so that whatever the outputs are there, that output will be stored somewhere, and then later it will be pushed to the your Sitecore Marketer MCP. And in Sitecore Marketer MCP also, suppose if any tools is not available, but you are having the available API from the Sitecore. For example, if you are creating a component or any other data, now you like to add that data into the rendering into the available rendering, because Sitecore Marketer MCP is not providing the available rendering MCP tools. So in those cases you can write your own tools, and you can make a complete automation of that. So that's why it's very easy to create a MCP tool and to make a complete automation in your day-to-day work activities. So if you would like to extend the MCP tool with your custom, so because all we are the .NET developer, and we are always keen to create the components or anything in the .NET. right? So in those cases, we are having the MCP C Sharp SDK, which can be easily utilized to build up your own, you can say that the MCP tool. So let me quickly jump to the code base. So first of all, it's a .NET Core based implementation, and you won't be able to use the .NET 4.al how we'd like to use the ASP.NET MVC. It's a .NET Core based. So you need to create the solution for the .NET Core, and also you need to use the packages like a data.sqlite, extension hosting, and the MCP C Sharp SDK. So with the help of that, you can create your own custom MCP tool in the C Sharp. So in those cases, after inheriting or using these packages, you will be getting a program.css because it's a .NET Core type of thing. So you will be getting a program.css. And here, if you are seeing that I have utilized, added for the dependency injection, I have added some sort of service. So as a best practice, if you are using a DI, you need to register your services. And then these conditions are the logging purposes. But you are having these MCP server wiring will you need to do that, like you need to add your MCP server. So what it will do, it will register the MCP into the .NET dependency injection pipeline, and this is some sort of a transport. So I am using the STDIO transport for the communication channel, and you can swap with the transport also, where you can use the HTTP transport also based on your requirement. And then this with tool from assembly, what it will do, it will auto discovers all MCP tools via the reflection, because if you are not exposing the definition of your MCP tool via reflection to the AI agent, then AI agent will be not knowing that what your tools will do, and then how it will map that uh, the description of a tool with the natural human language. So that's why these things are required. So once you have done with this, you need to create the your tool class. So what is the meaning of that? So you need to decorate this class with the MCP server tool types. So this tells the SDK this will tell the SDK that it's a tool container. So it's having a list of tools. So when you are specifying a specific tools, you also needs to define decorate with the MCP server tools. So the individual tool which you are creating it will be marked with the MCP server tool, and then you are having the this descriptions. So this description is you should be having a clear description what you are trying to do that, and how in day-to-day work human are interacting with the AI or they are asking the query. So you need to create your description like this. Like I have tried to create a one, you can say that a Sitecore AI MCP tool which will give you the child details. So what I have wrote, retrieve child item details from Sitecore by specifying an item ID or path, because in a Sitecore, if you are having a ID of a item or you are having the path of a item, you can easily get the data, and you need a language also. So we need to pass the language also. And then I am having a set of a parameter which is expected by my tools like a path and the language. So if you will see here, I have clearly identified what would be the item path and what would be the type of a GUID. So it's always good to add some set of examples so that your AI will be able to align what is user entering, and it will pass specific information. It will validate upfront. And also I was keep telling that it's a self-discovery. Self-discovery is meaning that these details will be shared with the AI agent, these descriptions, as well as it's a type safe. Why? Because I am upfront defining the types of my parameters and also what value I'm going to return to the AI, that is self-explanatory or it is exposed to the AI. That's why it's a type safe. And whichever the value which you are expecting from a user, you need to ask. Otherwise, you can also pass the default values. So this is the definition of a your tool. So what I did that I have created a one service. What it will do, it will simply interact with the GraphQL edge endpoints. And here if you are seeing here, I am passing this graphical URL as well as the keys. So what happened that you can pass these whatever the data which you need at a runtime, either credential or a endpoints, you can pass this as a environment variable also, so that whichever user is using a these MCP tools, they need to provide this data from their side. So in those cases, it's a responsibility of a developer or whoever the marketer is using system. They are knowing that which credentials or which endpoints they need to pass. So that's why it's a secure. And also, if you are able to create a MCP tools in a way that it will ask you to do the OAuth based authentication, that also you can do that. But in those cases, you need to register your app with either you are using the Okta or you are using a Microsoft Intra. You can integrate those also to authenticate and authorize any of the person who is trying to use that. And after that, I am just performing a simple operation. I am you executing a one graphical query where the language which I have received from the user and the path which is sent by the user, I am executing that, and then I am converting that into the JSON data, and I will be returning that as a string to the end user. And then when this data will be reached to the AI agent will be transformed that into the user understandable format. So that way you can also create any sort of a tools which is not present, or any third party system if you would like to connect, you can do the automation. So same way I am having a one other tools like a monkey service. So what it will do, it will use this third party JSON, and it will read that data and return to the user. So it's a raw JSON data. So I will show you how it will work. And also when if you will say get monkeys, if you pass the name of a monkey, it will return the that specific monkey details. So same way I am also having one selling service. It will just give you the list of the items which you can sell. And there is a echo tool like a simple, it will echo the message and it will reverse the message also. So that way once you will build that, you can execute that. And how you are going to use that, because when you are using the MCP tool, so it's not mandatory that you need to deploy anywhere, because it's helpful for your operational work. You are not exposing this tool to anyone. But if in your organization you need to create some sort of a chatbot tool or anything, in those cases you need to deploy into any cloud environment like as a Azure function, and then you need to create a chatbot where you will be integrating that. But in those cases you need a some service principal account, so that you are aware about that who is updating what, or if you are having some sort of authentication mechanism where you will be taking a data from a current user before using your chatbot. That way you can pass a credentials of a users also, like who is updating that. So it's up to you how you are going to deploy, but generally it is for the operational purpose. So you don't need to run it, you just need to define the command, like because it's a .NET base, then you need to give some sort of a compiler which will compile the code, and also you need to give the path of your CS project. So suppose generally people will create some solution which will be shared with the developer or any content authoring team. It's a one-time setting, they need to do that, and they don't need to run it. So that is the good thing with here is that you do not need to execute these things via this run button, because whenever you will start the MCP server, automatically in the backend the MCP client will execute your solution. And in those cases, people who are having the Mac system also, they can use this, because you just need to install the .NET framework only, and you need to define the path of .NET exe, where is the your compiler is there, that's it. And this is the configuration you can use when you are using a clouded desktop. But when you are using the GitHub Copilot, you need to just pass a relative path of your solution. That's it. So I have integrated that into the clouded desktop. So if I will say that list of tools, so what generally it will do in your Copilot, whatever the tools you have used or you have configured, it will give me the listing. So here you are seeing the like a this MCP Sitecore AI tool, right? So how this name is coming? So whatever the name you will write in your configuration for your MCP tool, it will pick that. So you are seeing there, it's showing me six tools like get monkey, get monkeys, get selling, get child details, eco, and reverse eco. So how this is being exposed based on a definition which you have defined here. That's why I was keep telling that it's a self-discoverable because you are giving the description and also you are passing the parameter. So if you will see here for our child method, Sitecore AI tool, one is the required and the other is the optional. So these are exposed to the your AI agent, and that's why it is giving a these type of things. So that is the, you can say that a way of giving the good presentation of a your ID. That's why you are seeing upfront that what are the things are required. So suppose if I will just say monkeys, I just said the monkeys because I have added a trying to get a more than one monkey's details. So automatically your AI agent perform the intelligence. It's mapped with the user intention. It's return the result, call a specific method and return it. So you are seeing here, right? It's a JSON data. So how this JSON data is coming? It went to this API endpoint and it read that and it's returned to the user. So that way it is performing the result. So suppose if I will just say this, so it should return me the result of that specific monkey. So because it's having a context of a user, it knows that in the last operation you have got the list of the monkeys and which monkeys details you are asking. It's automatically map that and it will call a get monkey method and it will return to you. That way it's a intelligence of a your this co-pilot which is easily able to map the things. Suppose if I will say echo, so it should ask me a message, right? So please provide a text and I will send it through the echo tool. So suppose if I will say hello world, so it will call my echo method and it will do that. So whenever you are executing any tool, so you can also check that what is the request payload you are passing. That also you can check that here. So suppose if I will say reverse, so it automatically took my last message and it revert in displayed in the reverse order. So now if I will say uh, selling goods, so let's see what it will do. So it will automatically map that to the call of a selling service and it return me the result. So those products are being generated via selling service and it's added there. So now I will check that child details. Child. Let's see what it will do. So it's telling me that please provide the item path or item ID. So how it's knowing that? Because I have shared or and with the help of a reflection, it is being shared with the AI agent, and then AI agent will be knowing that which parameters are required. So suppose if I will, I'm having some item. So suppose if I will pass this, so it's automatically make a request and it will give me the data. So that's way it automatically mapping a request which is requested by the as required by the MCP tools, and then it will pass and it will get the response. So I am getting the response like this, but it's printing like this in a user understandable format. So now if I need to get a data from this also, suppose let's see if I will pass this, what it will do. So it will also return me the data of a child item also. So that way you can create any sort of a MCP tools whichever you require and you can create the complete automation for your workflow. So now again coming back to the presentation slides. So now What is the responsible AI in practice? So, in simple word, the responsible AI or RAI is that a practice of designing and creating a and deploying a agent so that it acts safely and it will provide the transparent results and uh, it will provide the predictability within a defined permission, governance, and human accountability. So, if you have seen that whenever you are using any sort of AI tools, and it will also add the disclaimer that the content is generated by AI. So, why it's citing over there is that because it's a human accountability or human responsibility, whoever is using the AI content, they need to verify that before sharing with any person. That's why, in simple words, responsible AI ensures that AI system operates safely, transparently, and under human and organization control. So, in terms of this MCP tools, also whichever you are creating it and you are automating complete workflow, so you always needs to include the human in loop. So, human in loop means that a simple example. Suppose you are having a 10 content in a Word document or a Excel sheet or a JSON, but you are not having a path. You told the AI tool to create a content item. It will ask you based on whatever the MCP tools you have written. It will ask you the inputs and out inputs. So suppose if you are giving the inputs, and it will ask you that the path also. So suppose if you are given the path for a one item, if you have not given for the 10, so automatically when you will come for the next time to execute anything, it will presume those information and it will be creating at a specific location. So in those cases, whenever you are writing any sort of workflow or a automation, so you need to add a prompt or a confirmation for the user who is executing the AI tools so that whenever any interaction or any insertion or a CRUD operation is happening with the enterprise system, people sitting on front of a computer will always verify that whatever the action is going to be performed by the AI agent is correct or not. It's not like that people will feed the data and go for a coffee break when they will come back and all the data has been inserted into a incorrect location. So in those cases, you are creating a more problem for yourself and you are 100% relying on the AI agent. So that's why the recommended starting point is you need to perform an operation in a non-critical section of your content tree so that you can verify that whatever the agent you have written is performing correctly or not. And also human oversight is there as I was telling that human in loop so that before performing any CRUD operation, people who is executing is reviewing it and they are having a complete authority or responsibility that whatever the action is performed by the AI is correct or not. And you don't need to perform the give the complete access to the agent. You need to use the least privilege access, like you need to pass a role-based access to your agent so that it cannot run under the privileges of a admin to perform a content update in a number of locations. And if you are creating any AI tools, then you need to always uh, add the logging so that you can always go back and check that what data is being updated by the AI agent, and it should always have the clear human accountability so that you can always go back and check that in your audit trails or in your backend system that who updated these records. So now coming to the last section, like a key takeaways. So in this session, I tried to explain uh, why the enterprise system is not utilizing the AI and what is the gaps are there and how we can fulfill those gaps with the help of Agentic AI and the MCP tools, and how we can extend those MCP tool or create new MCP tool to complete the automation for your agentic workflow, and how we can utilize the MCP tool in a Cloud and the Copilot with the help of a JSON configuration, and how we can pass the data to the your MCP tool in terms of environment variable and if we need to deploy somewhere, how you can deploy that, and also what should be the uh, type safety for your MCP tools that I have explained, and what are the Sitecore Marketer MCP tools are there, and how you can utilize in your day-to-day workflows. So that's it from my side today. Now I am open for the Q&A. If anyone is having any questions, feel free to ask me. If you are not having any question, but I will request you can scan this QR code and you can go through these links. It will be helpful for you to understand how you can build the MCP tools and what are the MCP, what is model context protocol. So it will give you the idea how you can automate your day-to-day work.
Hello, Amit.
Yes,
Yes, first of all, I just want to appreciate like the slide design. It's really good and self-explanatory, and everything you covered. That's really good.
thank
Um,
you.
yes, I just have one question. Like,
Sure.
suppose we have implemented that MCP server in our application. Okay,
Hmm.
so in that case, suppose MCP server fails. Okay,
Hmm.
so means will all that AI tools stop working, or how means like we can handle, like suppose we have some
Yes.
enterprise level software and we don't want to like we should have some architecture, like it should ensure like there
Hmm.
should not be any single point of failure also. So
Yes.
like
So in
yes.
that cases, see, then you need to design your, as I was telling that, right? Agentic AI can retries also. So the meaning of that, when you are designing your agents, so suppose, simple example, you are creating the item, right? So your
Mm,
item is failed, correct?
mm,
Suppose your
yes.
one of the backend system or DB is down, and when you are making a call to your MCP tool, MCP tool is trying to insert the data, you will
Mm,
return the what I can say that the error message to the your MCP tools, and MCP tool will give back to the agent. So agent will display that. So now it's a failing, right? So in those
okay.
cases, what you need to write that. Suppose if you are, it's a simple. You can say that how you are writing the code in your .NET code or any language
Mm,
for a try catch, same way you need to write your AI agent, right? Like in normal human
mm,
language, that if I am getting a response like this from a that system, and suppose if you are having any backend system, other system, or a tools
mm,
which can be utilized in place of a that primary tool, right? Then you need to
okay.
give the instruction in your agents that if it is failing, then you need to call this one, this tool. So like that, you need to design your tools, because it's not a responsibility of the MCP tool to do something. Either you will write the code in your MCP tool that if database interaction is failing, what you
Mm,
can do that you can go and create a flat file, right? And
mm,
give a
mm,
response to your agent that it is being stored temporary, and it will
okay.
be executed later. So it's then you will be having some sort of a bad job in your backend system, which will do and send a notification that
Mm,
it has been done. So that you have to design that either in your MCP tool, right?
mm,
Or if you need to design in an agent that suppose this system is failing, then pass this data to the other MCP tool, which will store in the blob storage or any data source, right? So that the later your some other automation scripts or tools will be going to execute that. So that you
okay.
have to write it.
Okay. It means manually we need to handle those situations, but like distributed
Mm.
database system, like or
Yes, yes,
we are
that you
taking
have
like
to do
load balancing, something like that. Like that
it. Yes.
things we can able to do here, like
Ye-
if that MCP server fails.
Yes. So see, see, this AI is nothing but AI don't know anything unless and until you are not teaching, right? So
Okay.
if you are thinking just from my point of view, AI agent is that suppose if whatever the task you are doing manually, if you need
Hmm.
to perform automation, you need to tell that in a simple
Okay.
step workflow. Step one, step two, step three. Step three is failing, then use the step 4A. Otherwise, move to step 5.
Okay.
So that way you need to design the agents.
Okay. But like we are generally doing the things like we are keeping, if one server we are not getting response from first server, we can forward that request to the second server as a backup. Like handling those things,
Yes.
like these things
But
we can
but
able to
those
do.
are but the thing is that suppose MCP server if you have deployed to the
Hmm.
Azure and you are
Okay.
consuming that in a chatbot or anything.
Hmm.
So in that case, your deployment is taking care of that, right? It's not responsibility of the MCP tool to do that. If you are deploying to the Azure, then automatically it will be 99.9% up, right? So that will
Okay.
be your infrastructure things. But suppose if you are running
Okay.
locally and your
Hmm.
backend system, any system is failing, right? Suppose if you are using the Azure as a
Hmm.
backend database, then always it will be up. But if Azure is down, then
Hmm.
your MCP can't do anything, right? Or if your server is
Okay.
down, it can't do anything. So it's a responsibility of how your infrastructure is being done. Suppose if you are
Hmm.
not the infrastructure, then you will need to send a message to the agent that okay, if this system is down, use the other system to do that. So you should have a another tool or anything which will be able to take the request and perform it later in a different way.
Okay. Fine. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Good question.
Do
Any other
we have
question?
any more questions? You guys can raise your hand or unmute yourself and you can ask the question directly. I don't see any hand raises or questions in the chat. Yeah, I just saw a message.
One question. There are tools limitation in host side. So suppose there is no limitation in the host side, so it's working as a client server, right? So suppose if the tools which needs to be used in the host, like your Cloud Day or a Copilot, so that tool should be available to your host. It's similar to that. If you are having any API endpoints which you need to execute, so your system or a tools or a code which you are writing should have access to that. If your tool is available to that, your host machine or a host will be easily able to integrate that. But if you are trying to, suppose if I am a developer, I am having a code in my system and the other user is not having a code and it will try to run it, it won't run. Why? Because code is present in my system and also it's not deployed to the cloud. Then how the other user host machine is able to know that which MCP tool needs to run it? So this the limitation of a number of tools that I haven't went to the extensive tool of list, but I am utilizing the number of MCP tools. So it's one is having a 64 tools, one is having a 38 tools, one is having a 20 tools, but I haven't counted that. And also I'm using the Azure DevOps, so I assume that it is going beyond that total count of a 128 tool, but I will again cross verify that if I am using n number of MCP tool, then what is the threshold value? So I need to verify that, but I haven't went into that, but I haven't faced this issue.
Are there any more questions? Just give it a minute.